And we're back.
Okay.
March 1st, same interview, just had to take a break. So this particular, are you good? You recording?
Yes.
Back? Okay.
Good.
All right. Just wanted to make sure before we went any further. So this is the incident that actually started the conversation about where the property line was.
That sparked the fire.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did anybody at any point provide you with a survey
No.
of
They said they were going to have it surveyed.
how long ago's that been? Is that in
That
2019,
was
2020?
2008, late 2018, I believe it started. Mark said he was going to have it surveyed.
Did it ever happen?
And then no, it never happened. We actually went to a city meeting, and Mark passed the idea around the table, and it was voted on by 2 aldermen to pay for the survey.
Do you
And
remember
then-
who those aldermen were?
One of them was Mark Phillips, and the other one, I believe, was Jerry Crosby.
Where were there no other aldermen there, or did they abstain, or were they
I
against
think
it?
Billy was sick.
No, Billy
and-
wasn't there yet. Billy wasn't elected until 2020.
Okay, well,
Who else would have been there?
Quentin would have been there.
Yeah.
Would Eric have been in
No,
office then?
Eric wasn't there.
Was Mac Wyman?
It seemed like there was only 3 at the meeting.
Okay, they have to have 3 for a quorum to be able to do it.
It seemed like there was only 3 that day.
Okay.
But next month, before the meeting ever started,
My father was.
I went up to Mark, and he said that we're not going to have the survey done. I said, why? He said, it's not in the city's best interest. So,
All right. Okay, so
That's in between one meeting and before
yeah,
the next.
this is months.
How'd that get
That's
passed? And then-
months.
but that was outside the city meeting that he said that.
Yeah.
So that didn't enter
Don't
into
tell me
the meeting.
directly, because I've been on them so hard.
Okay. All right. So let's go back to. So how many different times after that, the conversation you had with your dad, did you all ask for a survey?
About every meeting we went to. I mean,
Every
it was
meeting that
about
you
every
went to.
month.
All right.
You know, until some meetings we missed because we get disgusted and disappointed that
Did there come a point?
no answers.
Did there come a point before this survey when the mayor actually said, we're not going to have it surveyed? If you want to have it surveyed, you can pay
Yes.
for it?
We was told that in the meeting after they done voted that they were going to pay for it.
Okay. And you did. So you paid for this. This is your
Correct.
survey. What did the surveyor say after it was all said and done and you told him that the city was contesting it? Or did you ever tell him?
They said he hated it for them. They can survey it all they want to. That's right. That's where the lines are, and that's where they go.
Said he was married to.
He's married to that survey.
Look, what do you think he meant by he was married to that
It
survey?
means he stands behind it whether we go to court or not.
So that's a legal document
Correct.
and it's filed
He,
with the
he
courthouse.
puts his integrity on that one.
So have they ever accepted this survey as being legitimate?
They is the city.
The city.
No.
What's their reasoning behind that?
They said the picture was unclear that my family's lawyer had sent to Tracy that it was unclear and they couldn't decide from the document that was sent to them. Like they hadn't went to the courthouse and pulled their own record of the survey.
No. This particular survey, what reason did they use to say that that survey was incorrect if this man
They called it
makes
a
a living?
picture.
They called it a picture.
They called it a picture and it was unclear whether or not
In
that's
fact, it's
where
a
it
legal
was.
document. Where did he take his line from before he ran before
They
he
took
did
his
it?
line about halfway on
Come back to
right
me.
there to your corner.
Okay, but there had to be another point out toward 156. Where was that point taken from?
There's several. There's
No.
about 3 or 4 across the top of that hill.
They didn't take any point at all, like say down closer to
After they got to the highway.
Dollar General?
After they got to the highway down there, they pulled from the Dollar General and from the property that Mayor Mark Myers owns and said it's correct with those property lines, but it don't work with the buildings. And I told him I didn't care if it went in the front door, drive that stake where it goes, because what's right's right and what's wrong's wrong. And then he realized what I was getting at, and that's when I told him, I'm sorry for lying to you to get you over here, but this is what we're trying to do. We're not trying to get our lines
Were you
straight.
really lying to him, or you just didn't
I
tell
just
him the
didn't
whole
tell him the
story?
truth.
But really, that shouldn't have made any difference because lines are lines. And you
Correct.
just said that you
But
took
that
your
property is dated to the fire hall at this moment, but that property is the one I wanted on the plat.
because of where the property line is and where
Correct.
you're. But isn't there a portion of that deed that says when it no longer, something to the effect that when it no longer,
When it ceases to be a fire hall, or
it reverts back to the family?
when it ceases to be a volunteer fire department, or is abandoned, it reverts back to the heirs.
And that's not either or.
No,
But that only applies to the small area of ground that was deeded. That doesn't,
that .478.
yeah, that doesn't apply to the questionable area where the fuel tank and stuff is because it was never deeded to begin with, right?
No, it's on my family's personal property at this moment. The city hall is. Everybody that pays taxes is trespassing on our land to pay their taxes.
Technically, yes.
And I've
Technically,
informed
yes.
Walker Oil not to fill that tank up anymore. And Mark and John both told Walker Oil to ignore me and go ahead and fill it up again because we caught them filling it up here a month ago.
Next day.
Yeah, so I mean, what do you do?
Okay, so now, let me see.
Running 300 gallons of gas every 3 months with 2 police cars.
All right. Now, I have some questions. Okay, let's see. Was there a point in time when you all decided that after you had the survey that you were going to have to get an attorney to enforce this because the communication with the city broke down?
Correct. After Mark told me to wait on the budget for 6 months, they come out he didn't have no money. It's time to get a lawyer. They're not going to do anything. There's no good faith paperwork that like I asked for. There was nothing moved. I told him to move that sign a year and a half ago, and now it's laying in the ditch. He won't touch anything up there. Nobody will. It's a piece of crap building. He talks about it being blocked. Them are half block. That's not even a full 8-inch block, and they're held onto. They got wires holding the block to the building up there. It needs to be tore down.
I didn't know
Block
that.
up to cover the rusty tin.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, all
Tin
right.
was rusted so bad they put block over it.
Okay. Last year, which would be 2022, I guess,
Okay.
was there a point before or right about the time that you got an attorney that there was a private meeting scheduled before the city meeting because the city didn't want to discuss it
We
in the public meeting? They proposed it. It was
there
proposed.
was one proposed for a moment, yes, because we called who we could, whose numbers we had, and it would pick up and listen, which Ben Alderman, Billy, whatever, and said, look, something's going to have to be done about this. We can't wait a month to have 15 minutes with you and another month to have another 15 when he's put us off for years already. This is a pressing issue. You're over a lot further than you ever thought you was, you know? And they wanted to have a private meeting with just us or just my father and Chuck, I don't know. But then after
Did
that,
you all want a private meeting?
No, I don't want nothing about this private. What's going on in that city needs to be exposed and showed to a few people.
What happened? There was a private meeting scheduled, and then what changed to make it no
They
longer
figured out
private?
I think they figured out that it was illegal to have a private meeting and not let other citizens be involved.
Did
Sunshine
you get a
law
phone
is what
call?
I heard.
Did you get a phone call?
Canceling?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Who called you?
it was Billy.
And what did he say when he called you?
Something about the sunshine law, and your name came up, and
Whose name?
Rhonda Lawson. And we can't have that meeting. We'll be there next month. And then next month, Mark didn't even make it. Quentin was a stand-in and had Tracy over his shoulder and didn't have an answer for anything.
Okay. How many times has Tracy been at the city meetings since we started recording the city meetings?
One time, I believe. And then I told Mark we didn't need him there every time. That's just a waste of money.
Do you have any idea how much he's paid?
Last I heard was $1,000 a meeting.
A meeting? Or
A meeting.
I'll have to do the math
If
on
it's
that.
more
I don't
than
even
an
know how
hour,
much that is
if
an
it's
hour.
more than an hour, it probably goes up, you know. But I mean, if he's going to lawyer up at every meeting,
Tracy
we need
said-
to lawyer up at every meeting.
Tracy sided with me and turning that land back over. Real simple.
Tracy said himself that it would probably be best to keep this out of court and and turn the fire hall over to us. And then something changed and it went to we ain't moving nothing.
Okay, let me ask you this. Who has paid the property taxes on this property that you had surveyed, where the city hall is and the old fire hall? Who has paid the property taxes since, let's just go back to 2017. Who has paid the property taxes on that?
My father and Chuck have split them.
And before that, did anybody outside the family pay?
Outside the family, Ann King paid them. That would be my grandfather's second wife, which is really no relation
So-
to me. She had control.
So the city never gave,
She had
the city
control.
never gave grace or credit or anything on
No.
property taxes.
Not to us.
Do you know if the building has actually been kept up and maintained that you're aware of, besides the water that has been seen banking up the
Not
side
that I'm
of it?
aware of. No, they won't let anybody in there. You know?
Like mold growing
Yeah.
on the outside.
Really?
Yeah, there's mold growing on the blocks. There's
See, I haven't
mold growing in
inspected
the
it.
gas tank thing. It's off.
Okay. Okay, could you sell that property there if you wanted to? Could you sell, say, an acre around that building if you wanted to, just to get rid of it? Could you at this
Joining that
point?
property line? No, that's impossible.
And
We can't even enjoy it.
who have you talked to about the possibility of being able to sell it?
It's common knowledge.
Has
I
the
mean,
city approached you and offered to buy it?
No,
Okay.
no. I mean, we can't sell a piece of land that's got 1,000 gallons of fuel on it and a cop sitting there ready to take you to jail if you're over there.
Do you think the terms of that deed, that 99-year deed, are still being met, or do you think it's been
No.
voided?
I've told Mark multiple
New
times.
fire hall.
I've told Mark multiple times he's in void of that deed. It is not being used as a fire hall. It is not being correct. My grandfather never gave him permission to even put a city hall on that property.
Okay, I got one question before we go any farther. Did your attorney say you could talk to reporters? Tell your story? He's never told you not to?
Right.
Then come over here and say,
Never
so I
told
can
him
get
not
you
to.
on the... right now, it's a voice behind me. I want to
Yeah.
get a face with that voice, okay? No, well, it's all right. I just didn't want to violate anything. I didn't want to cause any trouble or violate anything. Okay, with me. Let me back up so I can get all of you in the front.
We're not coming up with fibs here. What we got to say is the truth.
But the voice behind me needed a face to go
Yeah,
with it, so
I
it doesn't
understand.
look like I'm making it up as I go along. Okay, I just wanted to make sure we weren't violating any terms or anything like that. So, okay. What'd you pay, why did you pay for the survey?
Because the city wouldn't. And it needed to be done in order to hold on to what land is my family's.
Okay.
You got to fight, scratch, and claw. You can't get any cooperation.
Okay. And you don't have insurance on that piece of property that you're aware of? I mean, you didn't get specific liability insurance for the. Okay.
No, it's what's it labeled that it's not unprocessed. I can't think.
It's not under
There's
green
no
belt.
houses on it or anything. It's just open land tract.
Do you think the city wants or needs that piece of property where that building is now? Do you think the city needs that building, in your
You
opinion?
said wants or needs. Which one you want?
Either or. You can
They want
address
it.
both of
They
them.
want it, or they wouldn't be fighting us for
They
it.
don't
Do they need it? No, they've got 23 acres across the street.
And there are two trustees that are still alive, right? Have you talked to
Correct.
either one of them? Have they offered an opinion of what they think ought to
I
happen?
spoke with Guy Allen, and Guy Allen said it should have been turned back over to us years ago.
To be fair, who is Guy Allen?
He is Billy Frame's daddy.
He's one of the
He's the
original
original trustee.
founders, original founder of New Hope.
Yeah. He owned the land that's where the new fire hall is for a while.
At some point during the 2020 election, were you approached by Billy? Did he promise you anything? Did he say? Did he give you his support on this issue or
He gave
anything
us
of that
his
nature?
support on this issue and said he was going to get that back for us, yes, and vote for him, and we did. And Billy did speak up a couple of times until Mark calmed him down, and after that it's just been hush. And then after the lawsuit was filed, I kind of left Billy out of it. I didn't serve him with a paper because he hadn't been on the council for long. And he is the only one that did speak up for us at all. So I left him out of it. But now the tones have kind of changed.
Do you know what could have caused that? Did you have any inkling of what
I
has?
have no idea. It's not nothing that I was able to see in the meetings. Something done in private, I suppose.
How many times do you think that Billy has, and Billy's an alderman,
Correct.
how many times do you think that he has reached out to your family by personal visits or phone calls? How many times do you think he's actually reached out to your family with respect to this particular issue?
With respect to the fire hall,
Before and, well, let's just say since he was elected.
since the election,
Since he was elected the first time, he had to go back and
yeah,
resubmit.
he had to be sworn in. But we've spoke a handful of times about this issue. If I had to guess, I would say probably between phone calls and visits, probably 7, 8, 10 times.
Okay.
With speaking, the fire hall was not always the main issue, but it was always an issue because we brought it up, or he brought it up.
Why do you think he's been the go-between? Why do you think he?
Because we're good friends with Guy Allen.
He understands what's going on there.
Yeah, he kind of sympathized with us. at
To a
first.
point, but what do you think the turning point? Why do you think you tell me that his position or his attitude changed? Is that how you would
I don't
say
know
it?
if
That
it's because he kept running into a brick wall trying to talk with Mark about it and getting excluded, and his opinion not really mattered. But then the lawsuit was filed, and he's not a part of it, so Mark has left him out of the conversations about it ever since the papers were filed. But the turning point, I don't know. One meeting there, he got fed up, and he told Daddy, he said, "You're just gonna have to get a lawyer," because Mark was no longer cooperating. He was not doing anything we asked, and we'd been talking about for months and months leading up to that.
your personal feeling? Do you think it was a mistake not to put him on the lawsuit?
No.
All right.
In my opinion, there's only one person that probably needs, well, I'd say Pope, but
Yeah, I
that's
want-
really holding this process up.
Yeah.
Was there tell me about the last time you spoke to him. Was it in person or by phone?
Yeah, last time would have been at a meeting.
No. The last time he contacted you privately.
I'm sorry, last time he contacted me.
The last time that you spoke to him privately,
Uh-huh.
was it in person or did he call you? Did you call him?
Last things was text messages. I told him that they'd filled the tanks up again right after the city meeting, you know?
And prior,
Like I know.
okay, at some point did you and he have some sort of conversation where he indicated that someone with the city said that the property taxes might have to be raised to pay the lawyer fee?
After the lawsuit was served by me, I served 2 of the aldermen in the city and the mayor at a city meeting with the lawsuit. I had to catch Jerry Crosland at home and I had to catch Mark Phillips at home. But after they were all served, I don't know, a week, maybe, it was no longer than 2 weeks, I got a phone call and it was talking about that. And he said he had spoke with Mark, run into him at the dollar store or something. I said, well, what about that King lawsuit? And Mark, he told me, this is from Billy, from what Mark said. Mark said he told Tracy to drag it out as long as possible to drain us. And then Quentin had said they probably gonna have to raise property taxes to pay for the lawsuit. And laughed about it, we laughed about it, because it's ignorant. Why even be in the lawsuit? Why even put the city's money in it for something that's black and white?
Okay, so let's just go with those 2 statements right there. Let's just say it's a paraphrase and not a quote, okay?
Okay.
The idea behind that is you all have a substantial amount of acreage. Okay, now there's other people in the city that pay property taxes. None of us want our property taxes to go up.
Correct.
And I don't think anybody's going to blame you at all with it. So it's your understanding that the mayor actually told Billy that he told Tracy to drag it out as long as possible to drain you.
Correct. We're not a rich family.
Okay,
we do
and
own
then-
some acreage, but
Trying to hold on to it.
everybody's on fixed
Okay.
income, and we're trying to keep what's ours.
Okay, so if he drains you financially, what do you think that would mean in terms of this lawsuit?
That we'd either have to give up because we couldn't pay a lawyer no longer, or we'd have to sell some more of our property to pay some legal fees, or there's many ways you can hurt somebody. You put a crunch on the
Okay,
pocket.
so if they drag it out, correct me if I'm wrong in the way I'm going with this. Just
Okay.
I thought about this after you told me about it. They drag it out, they drain your pocketbooks. You either have to sell land, or if you don't sell land and just abandon the lawsuit altogether, they get the property back. And then, now you're telling me that someone with the city actually said that the taxes would probably have to go up to pay the lawyer's fees. So
He told me that's what he was told.
So it's like they're gonna drain your pocketbook, then they're going to turn around and charge you and every other citizen in New Hope for the
Good.
privilege.
Because per capita or whatever, people in New Hope, we're probably in, we own, 40 acres there between you and Chuck, or a little more, a little less, and it's going to cost us more than somebody over there that's living in a half an acre in a trailer.
Of course it
It's
Well-
going to hit us harder.
Well, we have people who rent
Yeah,
here in
don't
the
have to pay
city, and there's no tax at all, and I'm not,
Yeah.
I mean, people do what they have to do.
But both of
But
those
that's your-
would hit
that
my
was-
family extra hard.
But that was your understanding. That's not just something that I put together. That's something we talked about, right?
You're correct.
And we had a conversation about this months ago. You told me about this months ago, and we didn't go public
About
with it because we
phone
discussed
call?
it. Yes.
Yeah.
But we discussed it and we decided to sit on it and not go public.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
what happened in the last month that made you decide to do this?
Nobody's
public.
speaking up. You know, and
So do you
I finally
think-
talked to you, and I said it's time for the citizens of New Hope to know the real story behind all of this.
So
And the more I thought about with raising taxes and dragging the lawsuit out, I consider that a threat, in my opinion.
Yes.
You know, for somebody to do my family like that, that's a threat. And I'm the last heir, and I'm a grown man, and I'll stand up and I'll speak and I'll tell you the truth of what was said.
So do you feel like this interview is your last effort to defend your family and their rights
It's one
as
of my
citizens?
last. It's not my last.
Well, one of the
Yeah.
last. Okay.
Yeah, it's drawing down to. It's going to have to.
And
go
you're not
public.
going to back off on the lawsuit. Have you run into anybody in the city of New Hope that knows about this? And not everybody does, but those who do, has anyone said you shouldn't do that? We don't like this. You're causing problems. Has
The lawsuit?
anybody? Yeah.
No. Everybody I've spoke to about it feels for us, sympathizes with us, and is behind us. We have their support because, I mean, it's black and white. How can you argue? But it seems like the city wants to argue. So, I mean, if you ain't got a leg to stand on, what are you gonna
So, just so we're clear, you knew that I had started the Riverette News page, that I
Right.
owned it. I'm an administrator, and
a
I was
follower.
willing to put your story out there. So when I made the post on Facebook that I had a source willing to go on the record, were you that source?
do? Yes.
And did you tell me that I could make that post?
Prior to that post, I had told you I would go on record.
Right. And you said, go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
And I did it.
Correct.
Did somebody comment almost immediately within a matter of hours?
You made this post, what, 2 hours before the last
Something like
city
that.
meeting
Just
here?
a matter of hours, yes.
The February meeting,
Yes.
and Billy replied back before the meeting, you know, that was a lie, and the rest of his paragraph, I can't sit here and recall off the top of my head, but
It's still up.
Just reading that is a lie, it kind of hit me in the side because I didn't lie about it. You didn't either. Because that's what I was told, and that's what I told you. So, it's not a lie.
Okay. And so you're good with me posting this?
I'm fine.
You're good with me writing it and
I'm
posting
burning
it?
bridges. I don't care anymore. What's right's right, and I'm taking care of my family. And I tell you what, 3/4 of my family's sitting right here at this picnic table. I don't have much.
So, if I were to ask you right now the one question, what do you think he was trying to tell you when he made that call and he told you that? What was the message he was trying to send?
I don't know if he was sending the message that be ready for, you know, Tracy dragging it out, which is what I expected from the start, and that's what I told my lawyer the first day we went, or that's what I told Dad and Chuck's lawyer. I'm having to be a spokesperson for them, a mediator more or less. But that's what I told him. I said, you can expect this to be tried to get drug out by Tracy, and he's going to try to drain us as much as he's going to, and then 2 weeks later or whatever, I get a call from Billy, and he's telling me what I already expected. You know, so I mean, it's no surprise
So,
to me.
when you've been speaking to the attorney, not to divulge anything about the lawsuit,
Yeah,
what has been the tenor of the discussion? Is he okay with you speaking to the press in any capacity?
he's fine. I showed him, I sent him the link of when it hit the Channel 9 website, the little bit of the story. They had a couple little things wrong. I corrected him on that, and I sent him a better picture of the survey. I actually spoke with him again about it and started to offer them if they wanted to come down here and do this story, because it needs to be exposed. I've called the county mayor 5, 6 times, left messages, never received a phone call back. Never. You know, I've tried to contact everybody under the sun. Nobody wants to reprimand anybody over here. And what's going on, it needs to be exposed. It needs to be The citizens need to know what they're living in, where their money's going.
So, do you think that River Rat News is going to provide a public service, not just this time, but
There's a lot
in
more
the
people
future?
there's a lot more people on Facebook than there are that gets newspapers. So yes, it will reach more people and more attention. It's a lot easier because everybody carries a phone now. It's right there in the palm of your hand. You don't have to go pay 50 cents to get it out of the machine.
And if I were to post this video when I get home on YouTube, on Facebook, you don't have a problem with it.
No.
And you don't have a problem with it, Mike.
This is my statements.
Yeah, I'm just here to
Okay.
clarify.
This is me.
Okay. I wouldn't ask you to speak for Chuck, but I have a pretty good idea of how he feels.
No.
Yeah.
Is
This is
there,
my video.
okay. Is there anything else you want to tell me? Anything else you want to add? And again, I don't want to compromise the lawsuit.
There's a few points, you know, like at the meetings we were asked why all of a sudden. You touched on that for a moment, you know, and it just became. My father and Chuck inherited it, you know. It wasn't all of a sudden, and it started off just a gas tank, but then no cooperation. So we said, okay, get it surveyed, got it surveyed. Now you need to move the building. You know, it just kind of escalated and kept on. But these small town governments and the city's lawyer was also the one that wrote my grandfather's deed that didn't go correct. And my grandfather's land and everything else is not in Tracy Wooten's best interest. And I have made that clear. There is a problem there. There is a grievance. There's many papers in my granddaddy's will in that house and everything else. It's got Christie and Tracy Wooten's name all over it. And it still didn't go down right.
Can I ask a question going back to you all having some logs cut off of your property? It is my understanding, because I live on Pine Grove Road as well, that if you have any logging done, unless they're willing to do it with a flatbed gooseneck, if they're going to do it with a log truck, they got to buy a bond. Do you know what the terms of the bond is?
I have no idea. This guy loaded with a gooseneck.
Okay. But
But there's a sign laying in the ditch on our road that says, yeah, no trucks over 10,000 pounds.
but what I'm saying, yeah, you had a gooseneck, but what I'm saying is, if the mayor and the police chief and everybody else that's been involved with this, right, the whole city council, they're barring you from using access to a state road. So you don't have to buy a bond to take the logs off of your land, correct? So if they enforce this and continue to enforce this, they're keeping you from accessing your property from your property line, and it would ultimately maybe either prevent you from logging because no one's willing to pay that bond. I'm not familiar with how the bond issue works. I've heard things, but I'll have to look into it before I say. But if it's what I think I've heard, it's substantially more than most logging companies are willing to put forth.
Yeah.
So that
You'd have to
impedes
have
your ability to pay your bills, correct?
If we were going to do any more logging.
Considering that the lawsuit may be intended to be drawn out, as you were told. So, if you had it logged off of Pine Grove, which is also your legal boundaries, you would have to have someone
With gooseneck.
with a gooseneck or buy a bond,
Yeah.
which would cut into your profit margin if they had to buy a bond.
Yeah. That's why he had to use a gooseneck last time. We had to take little loads.
Right.
Because he done some logging behind the graveyard at the same time he done what was beside the fire.
Is it difficult to find someone to use a gooseneck and take little loads?
It's difficult to find a good logger. It don't leave your place of wreck, but, you know, that's another issue. Yeah. Or, you know, take off 10 logs and give you the money for 8, or There's all kinds of stuff. There's all
Yeah.
kinds of people in the world.
Well,
I can count.
well, that's what I'm saying. Do you feel like can I ask a question? And I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask anyway. Why didn't the logger bring the logs off right there closer to Pine Grove, but still on 156? Was it because the ground's so soft, there's no culvert there, or because it was just convenient, or it was because it's your land and you felt like you had the right to use it?
We felt like we had the right to use it because it's our land, and it was also much more convenient from where he was logging at, just the load right there.
You know, it's the city's land. It's everybody's land, supposedly. But they
Well,
did, you know.
The logger was completely on us.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
After
talking
the
about. Is your
survey.
land that where you were having where the
After the
logger was
survey,
coming in and out
We
there?
thought
Is
we
that-
might,
It was on our
at the
land.
time of the logging, we thought we were real close to the line, you know, but it's city land. We're not tearing it up. You know, it's public.
But it turns out you weren't.
It turns out
We weren't-
we
we
weren't
weren't.
even up close to the line. Line's 1/3 through the building,
Okay.
you know.
So you feel like your surveyor did a completely adequate job,
Excellent.
He's married to
married
I
to.
recommend him to anybody.
And where is he located?
On the other side of the mountain. It's
So not in Marion
Manchester.
County. Not in Marion County.
I didn't want one in Marion
Okay.
County.
And do you feel like you feel like you're going to have a favorable outcome when the court case comes and goes? Are you prepared to go? Do you think the attorney is prepared to take your father and your uncle's case to court? That's all I'm going to ask. Yes or no? Do you think he's ready?
Yeah. Yes.
You think he's ready?
He's ready.
You like him?
Yeah. I really do.
Would you recommend
He's
him?
efficient, and I would recommend him, yes.
Do you think he's going to be intimidated by any of this
Nope.
good old boy stuff?
Nope. I wouldn't want a man that can be intimidated to be my lawyer.
And where is he? Is he in Marion
Chattanooga.
County? He's in Chattanooga. Okay. Anything else?
Not other than what's right. is
What about the
right.
stress that this has caused your family?
Oh, Lord. That's a whole nother video and issue right there of high blood pressure and panic attacks and just downright disgust that sometimes and depression, and it lasts for days. You know, it's not like you can pick a phone up and say, hey man, let's work on this, or hey, can't we do something? Because you get one meeting per month and they're there and they don't want to talk to you. They want to pray for everybody under the sun. But when it comes down to city issues, they have no answers, so we'll figure it out. Oh, I got to ask Tracy. And then come next month, you never receive an answer. So, I mean,
Do you feel like you've been under attack
I feel like I've been pushed off.
emotionally?
And
physically?
tried to be pushed around. And I'm sorry, but I'm not taking no more pushing.
Well, I'm sorry too.
It's time for court. And
I'm
it's
sorry.
no longer just return it. It's you gonna pay for doing this to us.
You're ready.
Yes.
You're ready.
Yeah.
No court date yet.
No court date as of yet, but court is next step.
Listen, let me ask you a question. When it goes to court, will you welcome anybody to show up?
Anybody that lives in New Hope or
Anybody the
that's
court will
even
allow in.
interested.
Yes.
Yeah. Anybody that fill the seats. You know, I don't care. This needs to be public. They're not doing my family right.
Would you like to have the court case recorded? If possible?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. It would not bother me a bit. But this court case here, I want to specify. One moment.
Okay.
Let me grab this piece of paper.
This, baby.
No.
Give him just a second.
Okay. There's 156. This court case has to do with my father and Chuck's land at the moment. This 4.47 was deeded by my grandfather for the fire hall as we spoke. This is a totally another, it is not in litigation. I tried to speak to Mark about this land, about getting a neighbor who's got a motor home here hooked up to a building, which, if I'm not mistaken, is a city ordinance that's not supposed to happen. And it's actually happening on what was deeded to the fire hall, along with about 8 or 9 trucks and trusses and everything else they can throw in here.
Was there a point in time that the mayor said, what are you going to do about, or something like, what are you going to do about the man next door or something?
I
Are
did.
you going to get him off?
I spoke to him and I told him to get him off. I said, are you just going to leave him there and then give it back to us and let us get in another lawsuit and have to get him off ourselves?
Do you feel like the city wants the land that was actually deeded to them, or that they want?
They're wanting to hold it over our head. Why would they need it? They got 23 acres over here. This building was rusting in two when they put the half blocks up in it.
Okay, wait a minute. Tell me that again. What are you talking about rusting?
This is a metal building
Okay.
with blocks that have been split in half and stacked on top of each other. They're not 8-inch blocks, they're half blocks.
Who laid those blocks? Do you know?
Joe Waldrop,
Yeah.
Okay, I'm familiar with him.
he's done passed.
Okay, how did you say those blocks were attached to the building?
With wires and clips. And some-
Is that legal?
This end, and even right here by the sign, is leaning outwards. And they've drilled holes and pulled it back and attached it to the roof to hold those blocks from falling.
You can go right
This is
behind
a
the
safety
building right
hazard.
here and look between the building and the block and see guy wires
So
in here holding this block
is
wall.
it your opinion that not only is this on your property, but the building may very well be unsafe
I
for
believe
people
it. I
going in
believe
and
it.
out to pay their
Definitely.
taxes?
I
Yeah.
believe if somebody else owned this, it would be condemned.
Yep.
That's why we do not want the building.
Have you reached out to anybody within the county or the state to have it inspected?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did they tell you?
They told me they would get on it, but nothing's ever happened.
Do you have a problem with us? Are you going home? Do you have a problem with going by this building and showing me where these pins are that we're talking about?
No.
Showing you where the property line is?
I'll show you. There's a pin here, and there's a stake here and a stake back here. But I have no problem showing them to you.
Well, I'm going to have to pull up here off of on public property and walk back down because I don't want to get arrested for trespassing.
You can pull on us if you
Well,
want to.
you know, even though this over here where the new fire hall actually belongs to the city and we're
Yeah.
all part of the city, I still don't want to get arrested. So I'll walk down the
Okay.
shoulder of the road from the other side while you're standing there because it's your property.
Yeah, I'll park probably right here so you can.
You do whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then let's. If we have nothing to add, let's close this off and take a drive.
Okay.